Hey guys, welcome back to Quarantine with Coaches. Today I'm with a former teammate of mine, a heck of a coach. He's supporting a fantastic team. I have to add, it's Coach Brian Vaughn from Florida Tech. He's a DB's coach and also the defensive coordinator. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm great, Tim. Good to be here.
We want to talk a little bit about this suntan because I haven't seen the sun in 2 weeks. We're doing Quarantine with Coaches. I've been quarantined apparently. You haven't been. How do you get this tan?
Go for a walk. It is very hot in Florida. We are very close to the equator down here. We set records over the weekend. It was 90 something, and it hadn't been that hot since 1920. So 100 years of heat records going down here in Florida, in Central Florida. So it's pretty warm right now, this early in the spring.
It's good color for you though, man. It's really paying up.
I appreciate it.
You're with Florida Tech now, but I sort of wanted to jump back to a previous stop in your career. You're at New Mexico Military Institution, and you're the defensive coordinator there. That's a JUCO, a junior college level team for those that don't know. And, we've done, I think, eight videos now. We haven't had a JUCO guy on there. So I wanted to get your perspective on the junior college level. And the first question I have, I know, my thought process and the reality I know about junior college unfairly comes from Last Chance U on the Netflix. It's 4 seasons worth, right? How accurate of a portrayal is Last Chance U of the junior college level?
I think in some senses it's accurate. There are some guys who are in junior college because it is their last chance. They have messed up somewhere along the way, and they have no alternative in terms of continuing to play college football than to go to junior college and try and get right that way. I think where it's inaccurate is that that's not everybody's story. Some guys go to junior college because they didn't get the offer that they wanted, and they're betting on themselves. They're saying, look, I'm not going to take a preferred walk-on. I'm not going to take an opportunity to play non-scholarship or on a partial scholarship or whatever the situation was. Or maybe they got a Division I scholarship and they said, I'm a Power 5 football player, and I believe that, and I'm going to go to junior college. I'm a qualifier. I could take a scholarship somewhere else. I think there's a lot of those guys. I also think it was pretty inaccurate that the way that some of the coaches behaved, I think, was played up for television. And I even think of the 2 guys that they showed as the 2 head coaches. I think the coaches do care genuinely about the kids, and they care about their players, and they care about the guys in their program. And, sometimes it was played up as these over-the-top caricature guys, as opposed to really being more human and more down-to-earth coaches. I think there was probably some private moments that didn't show up on film where they look a lot more like coaches at every level. So I don't think that was necessarily an accurate representation. It was a very, very far different experience than what was like at military school. Military school is a totally different animal than some of the other junior colleges, even because you're talking about guys in uniforms. They're part of the Corps of Cadets. They have to cut their hair and shave their face and follow all the rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff. So that was drastically different. I think they underportrayed a little bit too the quality of coaching at the level in junior college. There's some really good football coaches, guys who leave junior college and go on and get really good jobs, guys who have really good backgrounds and pedigrees in coaching and being great teachers of the game. So I think they kind of underrepresented that part of it because there was some of the, just let them go play sort of stuff. And I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of coaching of techniques and fundamentals. There's a lot of development in the weight room of those guys. And there's also a lot of helping those guys grow up and mature. Some of those guys who come to JUCO are there because they don't have the maturity. It's not that they're not, intelligent and stuff like that. That was one of the big things I learned in junior colleges. I think sometimes the label is that everybody who's in JUCO is not very smart, that they're stupid, dumb, whatever. What does smart mean? I mean, that's an interesting question, right? Is it just a test score? Is it a GPA? What is it? Lots of guys in junior college and lots of guys in general, they have skills that maybe don't show up in the traditional academic sense of what smart is, right? Their GPA wasn't great, or their test score wasn't great, but they have a lot of skills and abilities that maybe don't show up in the classroom in terms of GPA and grades and that kind of thing.
Sure. How do you build culture at the JUCO level when there isn't that senior leadership and you only have these players for such a short time?
I actually think it's one of the coolest aspects of junior college. You can reshape your culture in a year because half the roster's gone. So you're literally subtracting half the human beings, completely starting, maybe more than half, maybe 60, maybe 65% of the roster is going to change over. So your culture gets to be reestablished every year, and you really get to talk about what are we doing as a team to develop our culture? What are we doing in terms of people? And how do we get all of the guys involved? Because there's no wait for this guy to develop. There's no redshirt this guy and we'll see what happens in 2 years. You got to do it now. And so you really have to push kids to break through. It's time to go now. It's not wait 2 years, wait 3 years, and then become a leader. You've got to do it the second you come onto campus from the very outset. And you can't make any excuses about he's not ready to play. He has to play. There's not enough roster spots, not enough bodies to wait for those guys. So you can't ever lean on that crutch of we'll wait for him to get ready. You got to do it now, which is interesting. And I think it lets you test things out. It lets you see how do you develop kids into what you want them to be? What do you need to do to get them there? And New Mexico Military has a great track record of getting guys ready. And a lot of that's Coach Fort, the head coach, Coach Fortuner. He does an awesome job of getting guys to buy in and do a bunch of stuff that other people won't do, right? Including wearing a uniform and shaving their head and, doing all the stuff that you have to do to be in military school.
Right. You just spoke of it, getting guys ready right now, right? How was that, maybe that aspect of the junior college level impacted your coaching style? Is your coaching style different at that level than maybe it is today at a Division II school?
Yeah. I mean, I think though it translates really well because there was recruited those guys and told them, look, you're going to come here and play and we're going to get you recruited out to the next spot. And now we're telling guys, hey, you're going to come here and play and we're going to give you the opportunity to compete to play quickly. And in the world that we're in right now with the transfer portal, if guys don't play as fast as they want, they may just leave, or they don't like the situation, they may just leave. And so I think finding the answer to what can he do? Don't focus on what he can't do. Maybe there's one thing he can do. Maybe he can be a situational pass rusher. Maybe he can play in a nickel or a dime sub package. Maybe he's a wide receiver that can just run verticals, whatever the case may be. How can we use that guy right now, immediately, and find a way for him to be bought into what we're doing? And we get, I think, a lot better buy-in when guys are playing, right? I think every coach will tell you that that's the truth. It doesn't matter what organization you're coaching in, whether it's, high school to the pros. If you're playing, you're going to feel better about it. And what I thought was interesting is when I came to Florida Tech, my boss at the time was Rick Minner, who had come from the Philadelphia Eagles. And he talked all about how the number one thing in the NFL was if you draft a guy, you got to play him right away, right? Like that guy's got to play. So it's kind of the same mindset too, right? The NFL's trying to play those guys right out of the gate. And I just think that's become the nature of how things work now. So I don't think, I don't think it changed anything necessarily more than just opened my eyes to how can we find roles for these guys to play them as quickly as we can.
Awesome. One thing I've always admired about you, you were a young defensive coordinator. I mean, it felt like to me, I was still in grad school, and when I was in grad school, you were already a defensive coordinator, and you've been a defensive coordinator for a long time now, and you've done a great job establishing a career from these different stops. What have you learned about building a career that you could share with other coaches?
I would say, when you're going through, people always ask, like, what's the process, right? What's the path to become whatever it is you want to be? And I think there's a lot of paths. I've worked with a lot of guys at a lot of stops, and everybody has their own story. My story was to go to Division III coaching and work my way up and become a coordinator. And then I went to junior college, and then I ended up in D2. Other guys go to Division I and are, in the quality control off the field types of roles, and then work their way into graduate assistant jobs and then go that path. And then, usually that means become a GA and then leave there and go coach somewhere and get some position coaching experience. There's a lot of paths. I guess that's my answer to, and it's easy to compare yourself to other people. We do it all the time. We look at social media, we look at all these places and compare. But the reality is you just do the best you can at the places that you're at, and good things will happen. I mean, I look at the coaching paths of a lot of different guys, and you look at how they got where they got. And a lot of it is just, working really hard at where you're at, doing the best you can with what you got. And then when the opportunity to move to a new spot comes along, take it. I think it's also about continuing to learn. If you think you got it figured out, you're wrong. Like nobody has figued it out. I would always tell people I got dumber. When I first started coaching, I knew everything. Now I don't know everything. So I guess I'm dumber than when I started. And I think it's, the game has evolved a lot. When I first started, one back was a thing, but people still based out of two back. People still ran the ball from the eye. People still did under center as the base thing, and shotgun was still a secondary option. And, when we started teaching defense back then, it was all, how do you defend two back, and then build the other parts of it out. Now we teach as a starting point, one back, 11 personnel, gun and pistol, because we don't see under center as often, and we don't see two back as often. So it's not the starting point anymore. And when it comes to your career, I mean, find something, find a place that you want to be. I think that's a really good way to explain it, in terms of, you may be on a staff where you look at it and you go, I don't, this isn't for me, this level or this particular place or whatever. So then figure out, where do you want to be, and then try to get there. And you may find out you love it there, or you may find out you don't love it there, but at least have a plan of where you want to go next, or where you want to go, and get to a level that, a spot, a landing spot, a location that makes sense for you. Because I think sometimes if it's just about coaching ball, well, you can coach ball anywhere. There's probably other factors. So what are those other factors that are important to you? Do you want to teach? Do you not want to teach? Do you want to, live in a certain location in the country? All those kind of things. You have to figure out what it is that's important to you. And I think that's always been a big part of it too, is trying to land in a spot that made sense for, what did I want to accomplish? Where did I want to go?
Great advice. Great advice. We're going to do some rapid fire. I know you've been watching the video series, so you're probably prepared for this. I'm just going to try to keep it to one sentence or less.
Okay.
So, who is your biggest mentor?
My father, without a doubt. He was in athletics for 27 years or something like that. But definitely a big mentor. Also, Keith Emery is my first boss.
I threw this in late. This is right off the cuff here. Favorite outdoor activity in Florida?
I'm gonna go with just hanging out on the beach, just chilling.
You're a guy who likes to chill.
Absolutely, very laid back, for sure.
Best show you've watched in the last 2 weeks? I'm asking a lot of guys this.
Tiger King, whatever it's called. Wild, absolutely wild. I don't think you could make those characters up and have anybody go, I believe you, that this is a character. If you wrote that as fiction, people would say, no way.
Your favorite defensive player of all time, college or pro?
Derek Thomas, Kansas City Chiefs.
The best follow on Twitter?
Ooh, wow.
Man.
I'm going to go with Coach Bass.
Last one here. Your career total interceptions at Illinois College?
I don't know, 3, 4? What is it? Do you know?
I don't know. I didn't do the research.
I'm gonna say 3, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Do you have the bandana still?
Do I have it? I don't think so. I do not believe so.
Too bad, man. Next time we get you on here, I'm gonna request that you wear the bandana.
Absolutely, for sure.
Brian, I appreciate you coming on. One of my former teammates, great guy, great follow on Twitter, very knowledgeable guy. Thank you very much for coming on, taking time out today.
Thanks for having me, Tim.